Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show podcast, coming from right here in our quaint little studio. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. I'm joined in studio today by Ray Ora.
Hey, happy Friday, everyone.
Jonathan Voico.
Good morning.
Chris Carr is here.
I just saw the thumbnail. It's so good.
And most importantly, you guys are here. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off by talking about a few predetermined topics that we've got lined up for you guys. And then in the second part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. If you guys have a thought, theory, opinion, or a topic that you'd like us to address, go ahead and fire it on into our tip link at www.streamelements.com/JohnCampea/tip. And as long as we deem it appropriate to be addressed on the show, we'll answer your question in the second part of the show. But here's the good news about the tip link. It's good 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So if you're listening to this show later on in the day on podcast, whether on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcasting app of choice, you can still send in a question. Or if you're watching the show a little bit later in the day when we're not live, again, you can send on in a question. And if you send one in when we're not live, we'll just get around to answering it on the next episode. All right, guys. Got a few things to talk about here today. I got my mind on my Kraven and my Kraven on my mind.
Oh, no.
We're going to get to that a little bit later, though. But we're going to start off with some good news.
Yeah.
You guys, of course, remember that there is a live-action Voltron movie coming. And they announced that, people like Rita Ora, Emmy Award-winning actor Sterling K. Brown, but most importantly to me, my boy Henry.
Yep.
Henry Cavill is going to be one of the stars of the new Voltron movie. Now, listen, we are living in a period right now where a lot of movies get announced that we get excited about. Can you think of one, Ray?
Craven. Boy, we got excited about that one.
Well, at least that one came out. Blade and other things like that. But listen, it's actually happening, as it was announced the other day, that Voltron has indeed started shooting. And they put out this social media post saying, with the little Voltron emblem right there on the lens, shooting on their 8K camera, with the little caption saying, "Cameras are rolling," which is good for them. They got the cameras going on that. It's rolling. The movie is being made, and it's happening right now. Now, for those of you who may have forgotten, this is going to be taking a place in, I think, a little bit of the future from when Voltron traditionally takes place. Because the director made the comment, he says, in this film, we're going to be introducing an entirely new generation of pilots. We've reimagined Voltron for the live action world, but we're going to stay true to the heart and spirit of Voltron. So, he made this comment a while ago, and now that the film is actually shooting, let me speculate a little bit here. There's two different possibilities. One, he says it's a new generation of pilots, which makes me wonder, so we're going to say that those pilots from, like, say, maybe the classic cartoon or otherwise, they are canon, but they were years before. But he also says we've reimagined Voltron.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Here's the thing to me, and I know this is not the popular thing, but being right is often lonely, is that I've seen some things try to be too true to original source material, even though they damn well knew this won't play as well in live action as it did in either the pages of the comic book or the pages of the novel or the original series or whatever. So I'm totally okay with reimagining it, because you've got to adapt. Because listen, I'll be honest with you, as much as I watched and loved those original Five Lion Voltron cartoons, if you just directly took that and translated it to live action, I don't think it would come across as very good. I mean, to be honest with you, that doesn't mean the animation isn't great, but I think, but how much do they reimagine it? How further generations of pilots are these? Well, see, look, at the end of the day, I'm one of these guys where I don't give two squirts of urine whether you stay true to the source material or not. Your job is not to stay true to the source material. Your job is to deliver a good movie. And if you got to stick more to the original source material for it to be a good movie, great. If you need to deviate more from the original source material to be a great movie, great. All I want is a good film, especially if you're going to have like Sterling K. Brown and Henry Cavill in it. And listen, Henry Cavill, the fact that he even wanted to get on board with this is pretty exciting to me. So anyway, Chris, Voltron isn't going to be a Blade. It's not
being
one of
made.
not going to be one of these
That's
or
exciting.
a Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verses where they say it's coming, but they don't show us anything that it's actually coming. They're actually shooting this film already. What are your thoughts on it right now?
I'm going to be the Debbie Downer. I'm not super pumped about this. This is one of those stories where I kind of subscribe to the Ray Ora school of thought of I want this to be a coming of age story about young pilots who are getting into this. Pidge in all the way up to Shiro, if we're going through like the kind of classic characters here, they're about ages 15 through 25 throughout the story. And I like the idea of a bunch of young kids trying to help save the universe. I love that trope a lot. I'm sure this won't take away from that. The film's existence is not going to make me like Voltron any less, but I'm not as super jazzed about the idea of a reimagining, particularly when you have something like 2016's Netflix adaptation of Voltron that was really well done and that has so much great stuff that I think you could mine for live action in a really satisfying way. That being said, I'm absolutely going to see it. I'm stoked to see those lions on the big screen. I love them so much. Little guys becoming a big guy? Get out of here. It's the best.
I think what's important for me is the design of the lions. If they resemble even the old cartoon or the new one, I'll be good. Like if you've ever seen a Voltron episode, it always ends the same. He transforms into Voltron. He does his sword thing.
Yeah,
and
let's
he cuts
try
the-
it just as the Lions. Oop, not working. Better merge to form
Yeah,
Voltron.
he cuts the guy in
Still
half.
not working. Better pull out the sword.
Sounds
Even
desperate.
as a kid, I was like, why do you see that desperate? Well, you're to form Voltron. That's kind of desperate.
Let's try hard.
Even as a kid, I'd be like, okay, you see the bad guys coming. Why not just skip right to forming Voltron and pulling out the sword right away?
And that's where Voltron each person isn't it like they have their own individual characteristics and they always try to like defeat the boss by themselves. I mean, and then they decide to transform into Voltron. But as long as those things look cool, I'll be happy.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's crap in the middle, just as long as the end looks cool and the lines look cool. I'm all on board.
See, this is going to be a challenge for design because you can't make it look just like a live action version of the way they were designed in the cartoon, right?
It
Because
looks
that'll
so
look
funky.
But you don't want to go so far
Like Michael Bay.
that you end up with the Michael Bay thing,
Yeah,
right?
that's-
Where it's just they look far too different from the original stuff. By the way, I didn't mind that Optimus Prime turned into the one kind of truck instead of the Peterbilt truck
Right.
because physically you needed that extra size to make him as big as you want. So that was fine, but they still made so many design changes that they didn't even look recognizable. So I hope they look more real, but at least recognizable as those Voltron lions.
Do you think Henry Cavill's going to play a pilot, or do you think he's going to be the
I think Sterling K. Brown's going to be the man in the chair.
man in the chair? Okay.
He's going to be the one who yells, and I'll form the head.
You think Sterling K. Brown or Henry
Maybe.
Cavill's going to be that?
I hope that it's either of them.
Yeah,
I want
yeah.
either of
Why
them to
wouldn't
say
he
that silly, cheesy
Yeah,
line.
I think Henry Cavill's definitely going to be a pilot. I think it's so. Now, by the way, a number of the cast, we're just talking about Rita Ora and Sterling K. Brown and Henry Cavill. There's other casts who've been announced who are younger kids. So it's going to be interesting to see how they mix it. I just hope my big hesitation, it's the guy who directed Red Notice.
Oh,
Now he's done some decent stuff too. Marshall something Thurber, whatever his name is.
Oh yeah, with
The director, he's done some decent stuff too, but he directed Red Notice, and I hated Red Notice.
and
But
it's nothing in this sort of plane, right? Nothing he's directed before is in this sort of vein. Or
no, but who could you find to direct this that has directed something like Voltron before?
I mean, did you like the last Power Rangers, the newest Power Rangers?
I did.
I did too.
As a matter of fact, but it flopped terribly.
Yeah.
Right? Even though I liked it, surprisingly. But we'll see how it turns out. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Voltron, Defender of the Universe, is actually now, as we speak right now, they're on set shooting this movie. It's actually coming. We don't have a release date yet, but at least they're actually making it. Whatever you guys, we're going to get Voltron 3 before we get Blade. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts.
Asshole.
All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, in talking about Sony's Spider-Verse, we're going to be talking about Kraven a little bit later on, and I thought today would be an appropriate time to do this. You know, with all the talk going on with the failures of Madam Web and Morbius And there are people out there who like Venom 3. I didn't personally, but I like the other two Venom films, whatever. And a lot of people, and this fake story going around that Sony's Spider-Verse is now ended. Guys, it's not. Just to be clear, it's not. They are taking a bit of a break because they're doing Spider-Man Noir, they're doing Beyond the Spider-Verse, and they're doing Spider-Man 4 with Marvel. Their plate's kind of full, but they're not ending it, okay? Just be clear. A lot of people, of course, understandably, saying, well, now's the time. Because like Sony just keeps losing so much money on these Spider-Verse movies. They're losing so much money that they're going to be forced to give Spider-Man back to Marvel. And I mentioned this on the show the other day, but I thought we should make an actual topic out of it. Guys, did you know this? Since 2018, when they put out Venom, so the modern era of this Spider-Man-less Spider-Verse, did you know that Sony, these movies are actually profitable? I know that sounds weird when you think about Morbius and Madam Web and what's to come with Kraven, but it's true. They're profitable. As a matter of fact, they're really profitable. I put this little chart together. Let's take a look at this. So when talking about, let's leave Kraven out of it for a second. In talking about the 7 films that Sony has, this Spider-Man movie types of things that Sony has put out since 2018. Venom 1, 2, and 3, Spider-Verse, Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse, Madam Web, and Morbius. In those 7 projects, grand total, they have made $3.18 billion at the box office. Those films combined. Now, once you take away the movie theater's cut from that 1.3 billion box office, you are left, the theater, after the theater cut, they've got $2.133 billion. That's how much they've made even after the theaters take their cut. When you add up the production budgets of all 7 of those movies, one of the things Sony has done smartly is kept the budgets reasonable on all these movies. Sony has never blown their heads when they've gone to the whole thing of let's spend $250 million making this. They've kept all their budgets reasonable. And the grand total of those 7 films, the budgets come to $711 million. You throw into that, they averaged out $75 million per film. Some spent more, some spent a little bit less, but they averaged out to $75 million in marketing per film, which is a total of $525 million in marketing. So when you take that $2.133 billion that they made after theatrical cut, you minus the $711 production budget, and you minus the $525 million marketing budget, these Sony movies have profited $900 million.
Yeah. Even with a loss, Kraven doesn't affect that.
And even if Kraven, which only costs about $100 and something million to make, even if Kraven loses $150 million, they're still going to be $750 million profitable. Isn't that wild? So when people like, oh, Sony can't keep doing this. Actually, Sony's making money. They're not making MCU money. They're not making, Marvel kind of money. Absolutely, they're not. But even after Venom 3, Madam Web, Morbius, they are nearly $1 billion in profit from these 7 films. And then they minus some more after Kraven, because Kraven ain't going to make a lot. So let's say he loses $150 million. I think it costs about $120 million to make. So let's say they don't even make their marketing money. They lose more than that. Let's say they lose $150 million. There's still $750 million in profit in the last 6 years of making these Spider-Man movies. And that's not even counting like the $400 million check that got cut to Sony from the profits of Spider-Man No Way Home. Because remember, because they own the Spider-Man rights, they've got this sweet deal with Marvel where they're the distributor on all the standalone Spider-Man movies in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and they make big cash from those.
Yeah.
Big cash.
And Beyond the Spider-Verse will be a profit.
And Beyond the Spider-Verse, whenever that comes, we'll talk about that a little bit later, is going to be profitable. That's going to make them more money. That's going to add to their profit total. So here's the thing. When you look at the fact that even as inconceivable, my best Vincini, that these Spider-Verse films since 2018 with Venom all the way up to Madam Web have actually made Sony profit. And you combine that with the fact that they don't even care if those movies make profit, because just by making those movies, they keep their existing deal with Marvel, where they collect these big, sweet checks from the standalone Spider-Man movies. Listen, there's no reality that Sony ever sells this back to Marvel. Let me rephrase. That Sony sells the Spider-Man rights back to Marvel at a price that Marvel would be willing to pay. Like if Marvel said to Sony, we'll give you $15 billion for all of our rights to Spider-Man back. Sony couldn't sign that contract fast enough. Of course they would. But Spider-Man's not worth $15 billion to Marvel, so they're not going to pay that. Anyway, that is why once Spider-Man Noir, Beyond the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man in the MCU Part 4 are all done, you are going to see Sony making more movies again to keep the rights. And all they need is like 1 out of 3 to hit it big. And they'll be profitable. They'll stay profitable.
And I wonder what they made from their licensing agreement for Spider-Man Noir. Because
oh yeah, they're making money from that.
From Amazon.
Yep.
So
They big sign license because they can do that. So they can do these sub licenses and all this kind of stuff. Now look, none of that is to speak that you shouldn't want Sony to give Marvel Spider-Man back. There's nothing wrong with you as a fan wanting them. I mean, maybe it would be best for everybody if they did, except for Sony. I'm just saying, when you actually sit back and look at the data, there is no reason in the world why if somebody said, Sony, why don't you sell the rights back to Marvel? There's no reason in the universe that they would go, sure, not a chance. Anyway, Chris, you had to look at that. I think it's fair to say probably at least the consensus among film fans is they would like to see Sony just lose the rights to Spider-Man and give them back to Marvel. I think that is clearly the consensus. But when you look at the data, do you see any real way that happens? Or, I mean, hey, Sony could go bankrupt at some point and then be forced to. But other than that, do you see a path for them just kind of shuffling the rights back to Marvel?
No, not at all. They like money. They're a business. They want money. But this is one of those things where it comes down to the difference between art and commerce sometimes, right? We as fans want to see excellent art. We want an excellent end product. And I'm sure Sony in their heart of hearts does too. Somebody there has to. But at the end of the day, if you can schluck out some crap and still make money, you're not going to put that much effort in here. And you also have to remember that Sony is wildly, wildly successful with their Spider-Man games as well. The PlayStation games that they do, those stories and everything are incredible. Those, in my opinion, are some of the best Spider-Man films. When you just look at the cinematics of those, the stories are so good.
A side note, maybe you can answer this for me. I am not familiar. I honestly don't know if the rights for Sony PlayStation to make those Spider-Man games are in any way tied to the movie rights. I simply don't know. Have you?
I'm genuinely not sure, actually.
Okay, yeah.
If anyone in the chat knows that too, I would love that, because I know it's more of like a PlayStation-y kind of situation. So I don't know.
Yeah. So it's theoretically it's possible they could theoretically give the rights to Spider-Man back to Marvel, but still maintain the game rights. They might be two separate things. They might be tied together. I honestly don't know. I'm saying I honestly don't know the answer to that.
But either
like
way,
the chat's
profiting off the IP.
Probably, maybe.
I mean,
probably, maybe.
But either way, they're profiting off that IP.
Exactly. Yeah. It's one of those things where when I look to the games, and I know apples and oranges, there are different creative teams, there's different folks in there. I know that they can make good spider properties. I know they can. And sure, they also have the benefit of having the Spider-Men in them, as opposed to these tertiary characters or villains without the spider in there. But if they're making money, why would they give away a little cash cow? Sure, they're kind of a whipping boy at this point, where we all make fun of the content that's coming out, but they're laughing all the way to the bank. So why would they give it up?
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's like, well, for one thing, it shows you that as long as you keep your budgets within constraint in your marketing, you only really need a certain amount of big wins to offset the majority of your losses. That being said, Venom is dried up now. So they don't have that. And now they're fully reliant on Marvel releasing Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. And so the well is starting to dry up a little bit, and they are taking a step back to retool. So they have to be careful because if they only fall down to one avenue of revenue, which is through Marvel's I want to say Tom Hardy, but Tom Holland Spider-Man, you could get in a dangerous spot.
Oh,
You can.
absolutely.
But I mean, theoretically speaking, if they could collect a pure $400 to $500 million check for Spider-Man Marvel movies, and the price tag of collecting that $400 to $500 million check is, say, putting out 3 movies that each lose $100 million each.
Yeah.
You're still coming out ahead.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Well, and I wonder.
nuts.
Well, I guess it has to be theatrical. I bet you Spider-Man Noir might not even count because it's going to Amazon.
I'm pretty sure it doesn't. That's why they have like
Yeah.
Beyond in production. But also, I think Spider-Man in the MCU, I think that counts towards their clock.
Well, they could. I still think they're on board for making a lower budget like Silk film and stuff like that. I do like that they're saying they want to retool their quality. And actually put some, because they could make lower budget films with these side characters that aren't just like awful ADR, crappy dialogue.
Well, look at the first Venom movie.
Yeah.
It's
Like
fun.
those of us in
It's
this
so
room,
fun.
we really like the first. I really like the second one too, not as much as the first. I mean, and then of course the Beyond, the Spider-Verse movies, the Into the Spider. Those are Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, in my opinion, are the 2 best Spider-Man movies ever made. So clearly they can.
Mhm.
And then they give us Kraven, which we'll talk about a little bit later.
It's just so. I feel like it's so cynical on Sony's part to put these things out, because to me at this point, this just tells me that with these last 3 films, they were clearly this is basically the Fantastic Four from the 80s or the 90s, where
Not counting Venom 3.
No. But for those 3 films,
Morbius, Madam Web,
it was
Kraven,
clearly
yeah.
just schlock they needed to keep for renewing the license, and it's so cynical, and it's like it slaps your audience in the face. That
Yeah.
kind of pisses me off. But
Like, I think Sony just was looking at the finish line and not looking at the journey. Like they release these movies, I think, maybe with the goal of having that team up where the Sinister Six. You know, they were planning to do a Sinister
I
Six.
think they realized after Morbius that would never happen.
Yeah.
Like after Morbius failed so badly and the audience rejected it so hard, I think they knew they were never getting their Sinister Six.
Yeah, they just need to focus on each individual.
Yes,
movie.
and you know what? That's the funny thing. Again, I'm not going to go into Kraven right now. We will save that until a little bit later in the show. Anyway, guys, question is for you: how surprising do you find this? That considering basically the rep of Sony and Spider-Verse and like Madam Web and Morbius and whatever, they're actually profitable, actually significantly profitable. They're making money doing this. I don't know. However you think about this, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, one of the things that gets talked about a lot in film fan circles is the current state of physical media. Physical media used to be the way you would watch movies at home. Whether you're going back to the days of VHS versus beta, the emergence of DVDs then getting HD with Blu-ray and all that kind of stuff. Like physical media has been a thing, but it has been dying and going away. The demand for it has dropped perpetually year after year after year. And then even major producers of Blu-ray machinery stop making them. Oppo was one of the leading builders of Blu-ray players. They stopped. Then Samsung was the number 1 in the world of making it. They stopped. Sony stopped. And now one of the last big companies that was still making Blu-ray equipment, is ending as well. As has now been reported that LG will stop making all of its UHD Blu-ray and Blu-ray players. They're getting rid of it all too. This comes to us from Engadget, who writes the following. LG has discontinued all of its Blu-ray players, including the UBK80 and UBK90 UHD Blu-ray players, according to Flat Panel HD. Remaining stock will still be available, but the company doesn't have plans to make more. The decision isn't surprising, as LG isn't the first company to pull out of the UHD Blu-ray market. UHD Blu-ray is a separate format from standard Blu-ray, as the former has a maximum resolution of 3840 by 1260 pixels 4K. Blu-ray is 1920 by 1080 full HD. And it goes on and on to talk about how basically there's no market left. People have stopped buying these things. And most consumers in recent surveys they talk about don't even have any kind of a disc player in their house. I don't have. I realized this yesterday because Ann and I were talking about this. This came up and I realized I don't have a disc player anywhere in my house. My PlayStation doesn't have a disc player. None of my laptops have disc players. My computers certainly don't have disc players. I literally don't have anything that if, you handed me and lent me a Blu-ray that I could literally put it in and play. And a lot of houses are like that. And the ones that weren't in the market to go out and buy them. I mean, if people were buying them, companies would keep making them because they want to make money. But they weren't making money. That's why Oppo, Samsung, now LG, they're just getting out of making them all together. Chris, there have been some signs. Some people have been saying like, oh, this Steelbook got released and it sold pretty well. But it sold pretty well by modern sales standards, not by what sales standards of physical media was like 8 years ago. Yeah. I feel like every couple of months something else happens where we go, this is yet another sign that physical media is dying. But is this yet another sign that physical media is dying? How do you take it?
Of course it is. Of course it is. If you can't play it, how are you going to watch it? All of this technology is getting just axed and going the way of the dodo. It's not going to exist anymore. And it's really just troubling from a kind of archival standpoint too. If you love something that's on a streaming service, they're going to take it off at some point.
Yeah.
And you're never going to be able to see that show ever again. And we've talked about this before where, some of the Disney Plus shows that haven't performed well, the actors on that were devastated afterwards of just, I can't even show that to anyone anymore. Though.
Yeah, Willow's one of them, right? Like they pulled Willow, which for good reason.
Which it didn't deliver. But it was still just you have no proof of what you did.
Yeah.
Maybe you personally loved that. Maybe this was a passion project of yours. Nothing's made of it though. So where's your kind of proof of that you did that? I think it's also really just disheartening if you're a big fan of something and you want to be able to watch these things. How are you going to tune into them? All of the physical media that you've collected is going to be absolutely irrelevant if you're, Blu-ray player busts and you can't buy a new one.
You can't buy a new one.
Or they're going to just run into people who are doing specialty shops who are going to be able to, fix these things for you, but at an astronomical price, which, you have to then weigh out, is it worth it for that? It just... Overall, and I say this as somebody who mostly streams, and I have a very limited physical media catalog in my own home, just because it does take up so much space. I'm a monster, and I keep them in those 90s CD display things. Yeah, that's how I store them.
The flip book?
The flip book, because I lived in studios for so long.
Yeah.
So having, 30 DVDs took up a chunk of space. But it's really upsetting, though, when you can't watch something that you absolutely adore and want to see again. Follow me on this journey, you guys, because, I'm obsessed with the Muppets. But for a while, it was like this issue with Muppet Christmas Carol.
Right.
There was a scene taken out that you could not see. And bless Disney Plus, because they did put that on there. If you watch the full version, you can see this song that's in there. But for years, there was media being made that had that just cut out of it, and you felt like you had some kind of fever dream as a kid. Like, did I take ayahuasca before I went and saw the theater? What happened? But now there's going to be, if that gets taken off of Disney Plus, you're never going to be able to see that scene again. And that's the kind of stuff that makes me sad, is just, there's going to be absolute media that is non-existent. And it's devastating.
Yeah. Look, we've always talked about this. There are two separate discussions to have. The discussion of should should physical media go away versus is physical media go away?
Yeah.
Right? Like, I'm sorry, it is. It is going away. There's no denying that. But that doesn't mean I think it should. There are some true benefits, and you were talking about those. Like, the only way you're like in an era right now, but the way licensing works and residuals and all that kind of stuff, sometimes a company will say, it's just not worth it for us to have that on streaming anymore, and they're just going to take it away. And it's like, oh, wait a minute, where'd that go? And there's no real permanent way to have it. And I really hope that somehow, some way, the industry evolves to the point where they figure this problem out. Willow got pulled, right? And there's no way somebody can watch it now. Like, what happens if you buy a movie and then that company that you bought it from goes out of business? What happens to that purchase you made? They got to figure out a way that there are safeguards in place. But I don't know the answer to it. Maybe somebody will. But again, this is another sign. LG, guys, is getting out of the business of making Blu-ray players. That's another one down. I don't know if there's anybody left making them. Whatever you guys think about this whole thing, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, listen, we still got to talk about a couple things, including just about that time of the year again, CinemaCon, and every studio has committed to going this year, plus one that has never been there. It's going to be the biggest CinemaCon of all time. Also, Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. It was supposed to come out in 2023, and we just got some bad news about how much longer we're going to have to wait for it. And we're going to talk about Kraven the Hunter, a movie that I've been looking forward to for a year, and I went into with some enthusiasm. What did I think about it? Well, we're going to discuss that and a few things more. But before we do, we're going to take a quick minute and thank a couple of sponsors of today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends at Miracle Made and Aura Frames. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's episode, Miracle Made. Guys, it's hot outside and your nighttime bedroom temperature has a huge impact on your sleep quality. So if you wake up too hot or too cold, I highly recommend you check out Miracle Made's bed sheets. Miracle Made sheets are inspired by NASA and use silver-infused fabrics that are temperature regulating so you can sleep at the perfect temperature all night long. There are just so many things that make these sheets so fantastic. We already mentioned the self-cooling properties for better quality sleep, but they're also self-cleaning. These sheets are infused with silver that prevent up to 99.7% of bacterial growth, leaving them to stay cleaner and fresh 3 times longer than other sheets. No more gross odors. So go to trymiracle.com/Campea. That's TRYMIRACLE.com/Campea to try Miracle Made sheets today. And whether you're buying them for yourself or as a gift for a loved one, if you order today, you can save over 40%. And if you use our promo code Campea at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Miracle is so confident in their product, it's backed with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So if you aren't 100% satisfied, you'll get a full refund. So upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made. Go to trymiracle.com/Campea and use the code Campea to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save over 40% off. Again, that's trymiracle.com/Campea to treat yourself. Thank you, Miracle Made, for sponsoring this episode. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Aura. Let's be honest, what most people really want for the holidays is to see their favorite people more often. That's why this year, the best gift you can give, besides plane tickets, is an Aura digital picture frame. Named the #1 digital photo frame by Wirecutter, Aura frames are incredibly smart and easy to use, allowing you to upload unlimited photos and videos directly from your phone to the frame. Plus, you can order the frame online and preload it with photos and videos using the Aura app, so it's ready to go right out of the box. Ann and I have had ours for a while now, and we absolutely love it. Because you may not know, Ann and I like to take a lot of pictures, including a lot of our dogs, Ann's recent trip to Paris, and a whole bunch of other things. And we love having it right on display right there in our living room. So save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get 35% off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames by using promo code Campea at checkout. That's AURA frames.com, promo code Campea. This deal is exclusive to listeners, so get yours now in time for the holidays. Terms and conditions apply. And thank you to our friends at Miracle Made and Aura Frames for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's move on to this, shall we? CinemaCon is my absolute favorite movie event of the year. Like maybe 5-6 years ago, it passed San Diego Comic-Con as my favorite event of the year to attend to. Just the quick version of it is this. If you don't know what CinemaCon is, it's this big conference that happens every year in Las Vegas, put on by NATO, the National Association of Theater Owners. So all the movie theater owners put on this big thing where all the movie studios come and they give these 1.5 to 2.5 to 3 hour long presentations to a theater filled with 5,000 movie theater owners of their upcoming movies. And they show us every year footage and clips, trailers, and sometimes even full screenings of movies that might not be coming out for 3-6 months, maybe even a year. And we get this big advanced look at all this stuff. It's my absolute favorite thing every year. Now, every year it feels like for the last 5, 6, 7 years, at least one of the studios sits out. Last year was Sony. But this year, a couple of really interesting things are happening. Number one, every major studio has committed this year, and a brand new studio that has never been there is going to be there, marking a first. This comes to us from Deadline, who says the following. Typically, there's one odd duck out when it comes to the movie studios at CinemaCon, but this year, with box office climbing back post-strikes and post-COVID, there are no plans for anybody to sit out. The exhibitor studio Confab runs March 31st through April 3rd, so a little bit earlier than it does most years, at the Coliseum of Caesar's Palace. For the first time, a combined conglomerate, Amazon MGM Studios, will be taking the stage with a presentation. MGM showed up pre-merger when Michael DeLuca and Pam Abdi headed the studio in previous years. Amazon Studios would confine themselves to a lunch with a reel of their cinematic product. So basically, this is going to be the first time ever that a streaming first company is going to be doing a presentation at CinemaCon. Why don't streaming companies go and do presentations at CinemaCon? Because CinemaCon is for movie theater owners. Movie theaters don't give a shit what you're going to put on streaming. They are there to consider what's coming out into theaters. For studios to convince movie theater owners how many screens they should set aside for their movies. But now with Amazon MGM releasing a lot of stuff theatrically, they're going to be there to make a pitch to the movie theater owners. Anyway, Deadline goes on to say this. Last year, Sony sat out, but the Culver City lot, which is committed to theatrical, will be back this spring on the main stage, along with Lionsgate, Paramount, Universal, Focus, Disney Studios, Warner Brothers, and now, of course, Amazon MGM. CinemaCon every year is packed. For those of you who have watched us, we always do these big streams right after a studio gives its presentation, stuff like that. And this year, there's going to be more than ever. I cannot wait. It is my favorite event of the year. We get the most stuff ever is at CinemaCon. And it seems like this year, now that we're finally post-COVID and finally post-strike, we're probably going to get more stuff than ever this year. Now, Chris, you've come to some CinemaCons. What do you think about the overall experience, and how significant do you think this is that not only is every one of the major studios going to be there this year, but now also Amazon is getting into it? What do you think?
Oh man, well, first of all, CinemaCon is great if you are a huge movie person. It's super, super interesting. You get to see all those trailers and those presentations first. And it's really nice to see the creative teams behind these really passionate and excited about what they're doing.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like that's a reason why so many people were into Kraven, because Aaron Taylor Johnson really gave a great little presentation.
He gave a little, all the way back in April, he gave this great pitch.
Yeah.
Like, of course, my movie's going to be fucking rated R.
Exactly. It was so fun, and here we are. But I think the big thing here, too, is in a post-COVID world, we're still fighting to keep movie theaters open, and all these studios really do need to push to have a strong relationship with theaters and see how they can get them excited about putting their movies in a theater. We have the rising cost of movie tickets and concessions. A movie night is an expensive night now for your average moviegoer. You have them battling streaming and the rise of actually decent content going on there. And then, of course, you have the issue with audiences themselves, who just forgot how to behave in a theater now that they are no longer in their living room watching movies and on their phones and talking during films now. So I think studios and these exhibitors all have to come together and go, hey, how do we make this the most enticing thing that we can all do together? You guys need to get us excited about your project so that we can give the best pitch to our potential audiences as well and really work together. That's the thing I always find to be the most interesting takeaway when we go to CinemaCon, is how there is so much just like, not reverence, but that kind of thing where the studios really, really are pitching to the movie theater owners and are so clearly beholden to them and make it very clear that without you guys, what we do is not as successful. And it's one of my favorite things about it, is when you see these little mom and pop theater owners being really wined and dined essentially by big studios who say, hey, we really want to be in business with you. We want to help make you successful. I had no idea about this part of movies until we started going to these, and I love it. I think it's so cool to see people so excited about this industry.
Yeah, and to your point, one of the great things about CinemaCon is like the main events, yes, are the big studio presentations, but all throughout CinemaCon are a lot of like sessions going that talk about all the different aspects of the movie theater going experience, where they talk about issues facing them and how they can, monetize other things better or make the movie going experience better. Like, food concession people come and show their wares.
The food floor is the best. Oh my gosh, you guys.
All that free food.
So much free food, so many alcoholic slushies.
Oh, so much free ice cream, so much free candy, so much free popcorn. It's
Last
like
day is nuts.
all it has, or like what I thought was pretty cool going down into the exhibitor floor was even like these companies showing off their leather reclining seats.
Yep.
Hey, movie theater owners, put in our seats, and some of them are damn good.
Yep. It'll be interesting to see. For me, would be two studios. It would be Paramount because of what the sale and stuff like that. They've been my favorite presenter for.
They do such a good job
since we've gone to CinemaCon. And the other one would be Warner Brothers, James Gunn, what he has in.
I was about to bring that up.
Right. Those are the two key ones that I'm looking.
So last year at CinemaCon, James Gunn just sent in a video message because they were busy working on stuff and they didn't really have a lot. But this year, I think both at CinemaCon and Comic-Con, I think James Gunn, particularly at CinemaCon, I think James Gunn is going to be there. I think they're going to show, and listen, I'm going to say this. I think, remember, we've been there. They've done surprise screenings of Ghostbusters, surprise screenings of Shang-Chi, surprise screening. I think we're going to get a Superman screening.
Ooh.
I got no insider information, but I would bet $5 that they are going, that James Gunn, because remember, this is a brand new cinematic universe, right?
Right.
Brand new cinematic universe. The DC films really bit the movie theaters in the ass the last 4 or 5 they put out.
Mm-hmm.
I think James Gunn is going to be coming there and saying, guys, it's a new deal. It's a new day. A new day? It's a new day for our stuff. And here's proof. And I think they're going to show a full screening of Superman. I really do.
So CinemaCon takes place March 31st, right?
Yeah.
And the release of Superman is July 11th.
March 31st to April 3rd.
Yeah, July 11th. So that could fit there.
Yeah, it could. I think it'll be, I think it'll be there, and I think they'll be really excited about it. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? I mean, I think the stuff we're going to get at CinemaCon this year, I think this is going to be the biggest CinemaCon year ever. They're finally post-COVID and post-strike. They were just starting to get post-COVID when the strike hit, and that kind of killed things too. Every single studio is going to be there. A brand new studio is going to be there. James Gunn is going to go heavy with DC stuff. I absolutely know it. Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's talk about this. Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse and Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, I believe, are the animated or live action, the two best Spider-Man movies ever made. And so is huge anticipation that we have for Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. That movie was originally supposed to come out in 2023. It's nearly 2025. And we have really been getting very, very little information about what's going on with it. And now we've got some from one of the cast members, and it ain't good. This comes to us from CBR. The actor who plays Miles Morales of Earth 42 recently shared that he has not had any voice recording sessions yet for Beyond the Spider-Verse. I haven't, but I also can't really say much more because, that's such a tight-knit ship, Jerome told Screen Rant. I don't even know how much, I don't even know much, he said. I'm as much in the dark as you, but I'm excited to get back into it and see what they're thinking, especially involving my character. That was such a badass twist to the last one. Of course, you guys remember the last one ended with Dark Miles Morales. Mm-hmm. All that was missing was the Mr. Spock goatee. So just Dark Miles Morales comes out at the end, right? Okay, look, we've talked before about animated films and some cast say, we haven't gone in to record our stuff yet, and said, that doesn't really necessarily mean anything because that's one of the final things that gets done. So not to worry. This is, I think, a little bit of a different situation in that we're already talking about a movie that was supposed to come out in 2023. And when he says, he didn't just say, I haven't recorded my stuff. He says, I don't even know anything yet. They haven't booked me yet. I don't even know when I'm going in. I don't know anything about my character. Clearly hasn't even seen a script. And Chris, to me, is somebody who is not in that world like you are. Like, I hear that, and that, especially combined with the fact that it was supposed to come out in 2023 initially. How alarming is this to you as somebody who does know this world when they say, look, as of right now, I haven't gone in, I don't know anything, and I don't know when I'm going in? Does that worry you or does it not? Give us some perspective on this.
It gives me a little bit of pause, but that's because we used to have much more clean cut ways about how we approach voicing animation, where a lot of times we would have the actors in the booth with cameras around them or with animators watching them and taking actual sketches right then and there so they could match the mouth flaps. That's the horrible term for making sure your mouth matches the words that are coming out of it. Nowadays, a lot of times we will have scratch voiceover, placeholder voiceover, so that the animators can get going and we have some words in there that an actor who is hired for the role will then later on do. Another issue is sometimes when you have really elaborate films like this, you work on all of your backgrounds, you work on your environmental work and everything first. You start doing that skeletal structure of your characters, and then you can come in and do stuff. Plus, with the rise of technology and AI and things, you can match mouth flaps much easier. So there's not kind of a right way or wrong way to do it. It's just going to be what is the most effective way. It does give me pause that he knows nothing about what's going on. That's the part that I'm like, oh no. But projects get pushed back all the time. It takes not just a village, it takes a huge city to make a film, especially something of this caliber. You have hundreds of animators, you have so many different vocal talents, you have so many different people, moving parts coming together. So I understand this taking a while. And honestly, just because they did have so many issues with rushing animators, having them work overtime, having these people work in a way that was really not healthy, I'm glad that we're kind of taking our time with it. As much as I want this film to come out, I want everyone involved with it to have a really excellent work experience and not be worked in a way that compromises them either financially or mentally because of how taxing this kind of work is as well. I just hope they let their main cast know a couple bullet points soon, at the very least.
By the way, let me give a correction to myself here. I had it in my head that Across the Spider-Verse came out in 2022 and Beyond was supposed to come out in 2023. Across came out in 2023 and Beyond was supposed to come out in 2024. Already past when it was supposed to come out. We're heading into 2025 now. So I just want to correct myself on that because I got the data here mixed up in my head. Here's one of the big things to me is like a lot of the reports that have been coming out is open saying they've multiple times had to go back and rework the script, which back a few CinemaCons ago when Lord and Miller came out on stage, it like the image they presented was that Across and Beyond story's all done. So we got Across coming out and then we're rolling right into Beyond, which comes out like a year later. Right. And it's now sounding like that's a mess. I haven't heard anything about the status of where they are with the actual production or animation of it yet. I'm not going to say it's Blade bad.
No.
Okay, so it's not on the level of Blade yet.
Boy.
But I mean, it's getting there. And listen, Sony, this Spider-Verse thing is the one gold star standard thing you've got that you've been doing consistently perfectly. Don't drop the ball on this. And it maybe sounds like they are a little bit. I mean, I don't know. I'm not gonna panic yet. Maybe we'll get some good news in a couple of weeks. I'm hoping we are, but I'm just as a big fan of this franchise, I'm a little bit worried. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Like the cast is saying, oh, not only have we not recorded anything, I don't even know what we're recording or when we're doing it. That's a little worrying to me. But whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? Kraven the Hunter is now out in theaters and is one of the biggest bags of cinematic shite I have ever seen in my life. To give some context, back at CinemaCon, as Chris alluded to, in April, when Aaron Taylor Johnson, the great Ricky Tikitaki, came on the big screen and said, ladies and gentlemen, I cannot wait for this. You guys see this movie. It's going to be hardcore, rated R. It's going to be all this kind of stuff. And I'm thinking, okay, they got a decent writer. I like J.C. Chandor as a director. He did Margin Call, which I love that movie. So they brought him in as a director. You got Aaron Taylor Johnson starring, and I love Aaron Taylor Johnson. I'm thinking, okay, finally. Even on paper, this is so much better looking already than Madam Web and Morbius and all that kind of stuff when you looked at the writers and all that kind of stuff. And I believed.
He believed.
I believed. I'm like Megatron in Transformers 1. I believe in the Primes. They would never do us dirty. He would never steer us wrong. He's out there fighting for us. Only to then want to rip him in half at the end. Going into the theater, even after I heard a lot of bad early reactions, I was still like, you know what? I still believe. Just give me some great action, give me some great violence, and even if there's other weaknesses, I'll still be happy, right? Kraven took my hope like a precious baby seal and clubbed it to death on the snows of AMC Theater and left me bleeding and crying for mama. Damn, this movie sucks. Oh my God, this movie's so bad. I will not say that it joins the trinity of the worst 3 cinematic Hollywood films of all time. I'm not going to say that, but I will say it's in my top 10 now. It is one of the top 10 most incompetently, inept, poorly executed films I've ever seen in my life.
Ooh.
I'm going to give you this, this is a small little thing, okay? But it speaks to the incompetence of which this movie was made, okay? Small little details that are so easy to not get wrong. Characters standing in the middle of a frozen tundra talking, and you don't see their breath. Little things. A young Calypso and her grandmother sitting in chairs on the African plain, as you can clearly see there's a strong wind, right? You see the bushes going, you see their hair kind of flying, but she's playing with tarot cards and she puts down a tarot card and the camera goes to a tight close-up of it, clearly in a studio somewhere, because apparently these are wind-resistant tarot cards. Doesn't affect the tarot cards at all. I mean, I'm just pointing out right now these little things that speak to the incompetence of how overall this movie was made. Now, let me start with some good things, okay? I want to talk about some good things. I thought 5 minutes into this movie, they made the right decision choosing Aaron Taylor Johnson. Aaron Taylor Johnson could have been a great Kraven. And you can tell that immediately. And you can tell that Aaron Taylor Johnson gave a crap about this movie. He did. You can tell. Ricky Ticky believed in this movie. He wanted to make it work. He committed to it. He did everything he could. Okay? And they picked the right guy, and he could have been a great Kraven. So I'm going to say that is a positive. They picked the right guy. Another positive thing I'll give is that there is an action sequence near the end of Act 2 that involves a car chase where Kraven's on foot, chasing a car, that transitions into a helicopter chase. That is a really good scene. I'm going to give it that. Yeah, it's not, Civil War airport fight scene level good, but it was a good scene. I want to give it that. Now that's 3 minutes out of the movie. And then the rest was a violation of all that is good and holy. Let me give you an example. So, great, Aaron Taylor Johnson, Kraven, we're here to see Kraven, we're here to see Kraven action, blah, blah, blah. The movie starts with the first 8 minutes that they dropped online, right? First 8 minutes that they dropped online. That I thought was actually pretty okay. I didn't think it was amazing, but when they dropped those first 8 minutes, I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm on board. Those first 8 minutes end, and you know what comes after those 8 minutes, Chris? 24 minutes of a flashback to young Kraven being sad.
Aww.
24 fucking minutes of no Aaron Taylor Johnson,
No
Kraven,
abs.
no abs. Yeah, and at one point, and at one point turns to me and says, "They're wearing way too many clothes." I mean, like, you at least could have done something.
I'm so sad about my abs.
I don't have abs yet. I'm so sad. Like, literally, like these, I get it. Like, all these superhero movies sometimes will do a little flashback to when they're a bit younger, but you keep those sequences to like 5-6 minutes long. It was like 24 minutes.
It's a bold move.
Of Aaron Taylor Kravenless, useless minutes.
Boo.
of Russell Crowe, my favorite actor in the world, giving a horrible Russian accent. Oh, your mother was weak. If I had a nickel for every time Russell Crowe said your mother was weak, I would have had $1. All right? And you have an Academy Award winner playing Calypso, who I think she's great. Ariana DeBose, she's great. I love her. She was terrible
Oh no.
in this.
Aw,
Terrible
that's a shame.
in this. It's just, wait, what? What is she, why is she saying that? Then the whole crux of the movie, all right, is like young Kraven gets attacked by a lion and is dying. Oh, but fortunately, a young Calypso comes upon him in the African wilds, and wouldn't you know it, aren't we lucky today? Her grandmother just gave her a vial of secret juice. No explanation to it. Just the secret juice. This is our family secret. It'll heal anything. So she comes across this bleeding boy and takes the secret juice and pours it down his mouth. Okay, wait a minute. You're telling me that there's some lady sitting out in the African wilds right now with the cure to cancer and is keeping it to themselves?
Well, it came from that Amazon jungle originally. That doesn't change the fact it's not used for cancer. I'm just saying it came from that Amazon jungle.
But they're sitting out in the African wilds and say, oh, but this is our family secret. Just pour it into his mouth. And then first of all, no explanation as to what the secret juice is. And then when he takes it, for some reason, he starts seeing these mystic images and symbols and like, bleh. And of course, the lion bleeds into his gaping wound, which turns him into Kraven the Hunter. And it's like, I'm just the whole thing. I'm like, wait, just wait. The whole premise here is that Grandma Calypso has a vial of the magic juice. That's their family's secret recipe. It's literally the cure to every disease known to mankind, and they're just sitting on it.
It's concentrated Viagra.
Pfizer coming to help everybody.
Stand you right up
So it's like, oh, okay. So it's basically a super soldier serum,
when you get knocked down.
but just
Get up again.
made with a couple of leaves and some juju beeps. I don't know.
Choo-choo beeps.
I mean, listen, this movie, and still to this day, I walked out of the theater. I still don't know what the movie was about. Okay, yeah, I mean, at some point you think the movie's going to be about this, but then it becomes about different things about 4 times through the movie. Like it initially becomes about, oh, Kraven against his dad. Well, no, it's not about that. Now it's about Kraven having a list of bad guys. Oh, no, wait. Now it's about Kraven trying to help Calypso. Wait a minute. Now it's about Kraven trying to stop this other mobster from taking out his dad. Wait a minute. Now it's about Kraven trying to save his brother. No, wait a minute. It was about the dad the whole time. And then, in the midst of all this, Rhino, who is the big bad guy, he's got some main henchman called the Foreigner, who, when he sees you, he says, 1, 2, and then I don't know what his power is. Time stops. He's the Flash. I don't know. They never really explain what the fuck this guy does, but he's the Foreigner and he's mean. Oh, and let's talk about the dialogue for a second. Every line of dialogue in this movie was brutal bullshit exposition on a 4th grade level. Hey, dude, how are you doing? I'm after the Hunter. Well, why is that? I had a mentor who taught me everything I know. And he was like a brother to me, and the Hunter broke into his thing and killed him, and now I'm mad, and I want to go get him. You want to tell us anything else about yourself? No, not necessary. Okay, so then they do that. And then we got the Rhino. Okay, the Rhino.
Did he get the rhino juice?
Kind of. Rhino took a juice that kept him from becoming the Rhino, because being the Rhino hurts. So he's got to constantly, you know how Bane is always hooked up to his venom?
Oh, yeah.
That gives him strength? It's like the opposite of that. Like if he's always carrying around this backpack with this IV tube in him that keeps him from turning into the Rhino. Because being the Rhino hurts. All right. How does the Rhino become the Rhino? I found this doctor who gave me something. That's it. That's our origin story of the Rhino, who literally says at one point, oh, I found this doctor who could do the great things. Unfortunately, it really, really hurts, so I got to try to stay in this form. What's with the magic jujube juice? Wait, how did you become the Rhino? And at the end, of course, Kraven's brother becomes Chameleon because, of course, he does. That's what he does. How does he become the Chameleon and get these magic powers? I went to go see that doctor. Okay, sure. Why
Dr.
not?
Juice.
It's scene after scene of the most, other than Aaron Taylor Johnson, who was clearly trying his best. Some of my favorite actors out there, Du Bois, Russell Crowe. Oh my God, all the acting is so bad in this thing. But they weren't done any favors because the dialogue is some of the worst level shit I've ever heard. And this is the confusing part to me. It's coming from a pretty solid writer and a clearly solid director. And I don't know, what did somebody tell them, listen, we need this to fail? We need this to be as bad as it can possibly be? And then it does this ridiculous 1 year later. Wait a minute, why did Dimitri suddenly become a dick? Look, it is simply a matter of they never knew what the story of this movie was. Like right from the beginning. When you watch this film, you realize you get to the end, you could just tell they didn't know what this movie was going to be about. And I feel like they just made it all up as they went along. Some Madam Web level horrible dialogue with incredibly wooden and stiff performances, with cliche after cliche after cliche, with major important narrative MacGuffin stuff never explained. It is, watching Kraven the Hunter is such a frustrating experience. And it just doubles the ass hurtness of it all. The fact that I believed in this thing.
Well, that was the funny part to me. That's what made it a comedy.
That's what makes it fun.
Yeah.
Is that, look at John thinking there's a chance this thing could be good.
Yeah.
So you recommend this film?
Oh, God.
Also, I had a question. This or Rebel Moon? Dialogue-wise.
Ooh.
Dialogue-wise, which
Okay,
one was...
just dialogue, they're on the same level.
Oh.
But Kraven the Hunter is worse than Rebel Moon.
Oof.
Wow.
Craven
you
the
gotta
Hunter is worse
try.
than Morbius. Craven the Hunter is worse than Madam Web. Craven the Hunter is one of the 10 worst films ever made by a major Hollywood studio.
I'm doing a
my
marathon at some
God.
point. I'm doing Morbius, Madam
This-
Web, and Kraven
And
all
then
at
And
Kraven,
once.
listen,
yeah,
you
you got
guys
it.
know I'm not just some hater I have been cheering for this movie. I've been the one like an idiot standing in the middle of Times Square in a pair of diapers yelling the end is near. I've been telling people, Kraven, it could be okay. It's got a director and it's got a decent writer and it's got Ricky Tikki Tacky and like this is going to be okay. And they betrayed me.
Well, this is why you can't trust or love anyone, John.
The calzones betrayed me.
That's a
You
solid
lost
Ben
your
Wyatt.
mind.
Well
That's an
done.
insider thing. You have to understand that.
It's a thing when a movie makes you lose your mind.
I'm just sitting there watching. I can't remember the last time I was this angry watching a movie. I'm like, just please do something good. And then that car helicopter chase scene happened. I'm thinking, okay, all right, well, all right, maybe we're about to get something.
No.
Maybe we're about to get something. But no, the pretty girl isn't about to kiss you. She just accidentally bumped into you in the McDonald's line. That's it. Nothing fun was about to happen after that. It was a brief tease, and then like a fart in the wind, it was gone.
But then she became the lioness because she bumped into him.
And because she found this doctor.
Yeah.
Sounds like you shouldn't see a movie for a little bit.
I want to go see Lord of the Rings, War of the Rohirrim today.
great.
I need a palate cleanser.
I had
I'm
such a
gonna
nice
go,
time.
You know
I
what?
gotta go see that later
Yeah,
today.
either go do that or like I recommend Heretic.
Heretic's out. Carry On comes out.
Well, I've
today
seen
on
Heretic,
Netflix.
but Carry On.
know?
Yeah, do something.
There's some palette cleansers available to you.
This. Oh my. I try to talk about negative things in movies that I love, and I try to talk about the positive things in movies that I dislike. This is one of the worst pieces of cinematic vomit right up your anal cavity that I have ever seen. It is a horribly made, horribly executed, no thought, no strategy, no direction. Just look at Aaron Taylor Johnson's abs. Do we need anything more? Kind of approach to filmmaking.
Well, are they that wrong?
And maybe, but you know what? But as Ann pointed out, he wasn't nearly shirtless enough.
Well, that's fair. Thank you, Anne, for doing the hard
So,
work.
go ahead. I now open it to the floor to tell me I told you so. Go ahead. I'm here. I'll take it because I acknowledge it. Everybody tried to say this is gonna be crap, and I'm like, nah, you don't know what you're talking about. See, Madam Web, they had the worst director or the worst writers in the world. So did Morbius. This one, it's gonna be fine.
You know, there's some people who gave it like a raving review.
I found it.
What?
Well, see, that's the beautiful thing. The beautiful thing is that movies are subjective. And what is great to you will be terrible to somebody else. And what you think is horrible to somebody will find joy in it. And that's a great thing. And I don't begrudge anybody. Like right now, it's got a 14% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Oh, it's gone down.
I don't begrudge anybody who, if they watched if they watched
Same
Kraven
thing.
and they liked it, I don't begrudge anybody that. That's great. I that's what art is about. It hits us in different ways. Kraven the Hunter just hit me in such a way that it was like a sledgehammer to the balls. And it's so disappointing. It's so bad and it's so terrible. But that's not to take away that somebody else may like it. And if they do, good. I'm happy
Specifically,
about that.
12 people liked
Did
it.
you already go over the positives?
Yeah, that was the positive.
Taylor
Now let's get to the
Johnson
negatives.
and the car and helicopter chase scene.
Okay.
And that's about.
yeah.
And that's what.
Oh, but here's the other thing, right? Rhino. These mobsters want to challenge Rhino. They don't know what they're dealing with. So the mobster's trying to shoot him, but bullets can't pierce the Rhino's skin. Woo! But guess what? That doesn't matter because a little bit later on, somebody's just got a knife and goes stabby, and that punctures his skin, no problem.
It's about velocity.
It's about velocity.
I like when there's a physics puzzle in my Marvel movies. It's a fun time. I just feel so justified in my choices. I'm really enjoying myself right now. I'm sorry you had a bad time, but I'm like, man, I did the right thing going to see Lord of the Rings.
There's a part, there are of course those movies where like a movie is so bad, they're like, and I feel this way about Madam Web, where a movie's so bad, you're like, guys, you just got to watch it.
Oh yeah,
Like
it's
you got to
hilariously
see it.
terrible.
You
Is this one of
got to
them?
see it. Not Kraven.
Oh no.
Oh wow! It can't even get that.
Don't even
That's a
hate
shame.
watch this movie. Don't wait. Go volunteer at a soup kitchen.
But I did.
Go do something else with your time.
Well, that
do
should
that,
happen
though.
anyway. But I have heard people say this is like The Room, and actually, if you just go with friends, you just laugh at it the whole time.
Yeah.
So
My plan is to go see one of like the 10 a.m. showings and just go with Logan.
get a coffee and
yeah, have a great time.
yeah,
Laugh our asses off.
Like, oh God. Oh God.
put a little whiskey in the coffee, you're done.
It's just so, it's just so bad. So bad. Anyway, guys, question is for you. Kraven the Hunter is now out in theaters. Some of you have gone to see it. Okay. And maybe some of you liked it. And if you did, that's great. I celebrate that. I have no words. I'm having like traumatic flashbacks of all the times over the past year where I've said, I've got belief in this movie, only to be shot in the back.
Silly rabbit.
Anyway, whatever you guys thought about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's get on to the important stuff, shall we? Hopefully some of you have seen Kraven and want to talk about it. We're going to take your live comments and topics right now. But before we do, we're going to take a quick second and thank another sponsor. Today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast, our friends who are way better than Kraven at Mando. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Mando. Guys, I've got to tell you about something that changed my whole body care game. Mando Whole Body Deodorant. Now, I first heard about Mando last year when they offered to become a sponsor of the show, and I was honestly skeptical. I mean, a deodorant can't really control odor for 72 hours, can it? But after using it myself, I am a believer. You can use it anywhere on your body, and I mean anywhere. It's clinically proven to keep you smelling fresh for up to 72 hours without any irritation. I'm loving the clover wood scent, but they've got options like bourbon leather, Mount Fuji, Pro Sport, and even unscented if you prefer to go stealth mode. I like to use it after the shower, before the gym, or even important meetings. It's that reliable. And right now, Mando's got a killer deal. New customers get $5 off their best-selling starter pack with my exclusive code CAMPEA. That's over 40% off. Just go to shopmando, that's shopmando.com, and use the code CAMPEA. Seriously, guys, if you want a deodorant that's aluminum-free, baking soda-free, and just works better than anything else you've tried, it's time to make the switch to Mando. So don't wait. Control body odor anywhere with Mando. Head over to shopmando.com and use the code CAMPEA and get $5 off your starter pack. Trust me, you're going to love it. That's at shopmando.com. Go and check it out now. And thank you to our friends at Mando for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's get to something better, shall we? Let's take your live comments and questions. What do you guys have up first?
All right. Grubby Don't Play says, how mad do you think Sony is at itself for not putting 28 Days Later on digital before releasing the trailer for 28 Years Later? A used DVD is now $50 on eBay.
Wow.
And who knows how many people pirated it by now. It feels like such a boneheaded move. Happy holidays.
Nobody uses physical media anymore. I'm pretty sure 28 days and 28 weeks are available online somewhere.
Yeah, because he says on digital. I can't imagine you can't stream those somewhere.
Yeah.
Ray, can you look into that?
Yeah.
See, can you find it? And even VOD, even if to buy to rent, but they've got to be available somewhere in some format at some point. Anyway, all right, what's next?
We got, is that water? Says, hi crew, been watching since the Man of Steel days. Just wanted to say, all the people that have been calling Marvel desperate for the RDJ Evans returns, well, there's a reason you don't work in the business. Don't get it twisted, though. I'm not saying that suits are always the smartest either, looking at you, Sony, and old DC. But Sony is profitable. But come on, you should have seen from a mile away that they would be back. Have a good day, crew. Could use a cup of water. That definitely isn't Sprite right now. Ah, there's the name.
Ray, you got some info?
Oh, well, it's right now. It's not streaming anywhere.
Okay.
Or
So there you go.
So
then.
you can't watch it VOD.
Yeah.
You can't go to Apple.
in the physical media
You can't go to the
versions, out of
iTunes
print.
store.
And
But
don't
there's
look
a
to
story
LG.
2 days ago where Sony hints 28 Days Later is coming to digital on Rolling Stone. So
Okay.
Well, like you can't even go to like
Yeah,
the
'cause
Google
I
Play
usually
Store or iTunes Store and buy it.
I usually type in where to watch, and they'll usually give a list with the icons of the streaming services and how much it is or if it's free. There's nothing.
Espinosa in the live chat saying 28 weeks later is available on Fandango.
Okay, well,
But I mean, that's somebody else is saying 28 weeks later is on Hulu.
but we're 28 days later so far is not available.
Oh, but you can't find 28 days.
Yeah.
Interesting. Anyway, yeah, again, the whole thing about bringing back Robert Downey Jr. and Chris Evans, the two single most popular, important figures, actors, and characters to the Marvel Cinematic Universe as desperate. Yeah, again, you don't understand the definition of the word desperate. You don't know what that means. Desperate is when like, oh no, we're in trouble. The only person I have to call to help me is someone who's my greatest enemy. That's desperate because there's some big negative downside to that. But this is just a smart, calculated, intelligent move that is guaranteed going to make them billions and billions of dollars. Again, if you call that desperate, you're just exhibiting you don't understand the English language. It doesn't mean you have to like the move. Like, if you don't like that they're doing that, that's perfectly fair. Like, that's a totally fair, legit opinion to have. But to call it desperate just means you don't understand the English language. All right, what's next?
Javier says, hi, John. Your channel has been a bright spot in my life for years. On tough days when I feel depressed, I can always turn your show on. And your positive outlook, don't look at the Kraven section, on life and movies lifts me up and helps me get through. Thank you for everything you do.
Oh, thank you for that, man. I really appreciate that. You know, look, here's the great thing. Every once in a while, a movie like Kraven comes along. This throws me into the pit of despair. Look, the reason I even created this channel or even started in this industry in the first place is I like to talk about the things I love. I like to talk. Now, if that means every once in a while something's going to come wrong, like a Kraven, that unfortunately is not going to be all that positive. But in general, I do this because I like talking about the things I'm excited about. I like talking about things I'm enthusiastic about. I like talking about the things I love. And I kind of wish more people would do that. Now, again, that doesn't mean you can't ever be negative, because there are going to be times in your life when a Kraven comes along. But, it is what it is. But thank you so much for being here and being a part of our journey with us. All right, what's next?
Well, we got old Danny Boy says, not saying they should do this, but with bringing Chris Evans back, couldn't they just use the Hulk's version of time travel and move time through Steve instead of Steve through time, and make him younger? $5 on that being what they do, but who knows? I could see that.
That's possible. But remember, though, this is a comic book movie. They don't need to have anything logical that makes the supernatural happen. So they can just say, listen, to do this, we need our Steve. Okay. Jump back to where he was returning the Soul Stone, or where he was returning the Time Stone, or where he's returning the Power Stone, or whichever one he was. Grab him and bring him back.
Just give him
They
some
can
of
do that.
Just give him some of that Savannah juice.
Just give him some of
Get
that
him a
magical
special
juice
Capri Sun.
that they gave Kraven in the desert. Or they could say, like, just have time pass through him and make him younger, or it could be another Earth's version of Steve. Look, the thing is, as a comic book movie, you don't really have to come up with something that's logical, because we're dealing with illogical premises. So there's that. As long as they stay true to the logic that they create for themselves, I'm cool. But that means really everything's on the table. But that is definitely one of the ways they could go. Actually, that's a kind of an interesting approach to it that they do. I kind of hope they do that. All right, what's next?
We got Anonymous, who says, it's crazy to think that Ryan Coogler wanted to use Kraven as a secondary antagonist in Black Panther, and John Watts wanted him as the main villain for No Way Home at one point in time. Sony denied the character twice so he could be saved for his solo film. Right move.
I mean, listen, for Sony, it was the right move.
Yeah.
Right? Like, nah, we'll keep him. I mean, because we talked about this the other day, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
Sony, they're going to make more of these movies. They are, at some point. But they're running out of people they can do them with. Like, they already let Goblin... They've already got Goblin already in the MCU. They let the MCU have that. And other things. But, like, they're... Like, who do you do? Silver Sable? Black Cat? I just don't know. They're going to run out of names. So when Marvel comes along and says, oh, let us use Kraven, I can understand why Sony will go, well, no. We're going to do that. But I don't know. Definitely would have worked out better for us. Mm-hmm. All right, what's next?
Dave says, hey, Giovanni, just wanted to check out how you're doing after the Kraven out of the theater reaction. You look like you wanted to knock someone out. Also, wanted to know your thoughts on Heroes. It's a shame we never got that bona fide proper Peter versus Sylar battle. We get a lot of things we should have got in Heroes.
Heroes Season 1 is my all-time favorite single season of television.
Such promise.
Yeah. It was so good. A writer strike then killed the show. The quality level then dropped off terribly, and they were never able to recover after that. But season 1, Milo Ventimiglia, it just was such a great show, with one of the greatest first episodes ever that got you hooked right away, and it was absolutely phenomenal. I loved that show. Again, it's unfortunate what happened to it after the first season, and they never really did give us that proper. We did have Peter and Sylar like confront each other, but we never got that fight that we were hoping they would really build up to. But that's still fine. The first season is still one of the best seasons I think ever made. All right, what's next?
Garden Variety Vagabond says, for Harry Potter, David Tennant needs a role. He was in Goblet of Fire. Snape is probably too large as he is so busy, and Michael Sheen, please. Rachel Weisz as Bellatrix Lestrange.
Oh, she would be a great Bellatrix. Yeah.
Doug Jones would make an interesting Voldemort. Doug Jones makes an interesting anything.
That's very true.
Yeah. I think there's probably about 40 or 50 names for each character that would be totally great. I just hope they get the right, pick from the right barrel. There's no one person that can play that role. But yes, if they announced tomorrow that Rachel Weisz was like Bellatrix, yeah, I'm down for that. That'd be great. But I also think there are 20 or 30 other names that would also be really great. It's going to be really fun to see how the casting comes out. Of course, these are all great, Chris. Mm-hmm. But the most important casting are all going to be names that none of us know. It's going to be the kids.
Absolutely.
You've got to the Harry Potter movies worked because they got the right kids. But that doesn't mean the adults aren't important, but how big of a gap how important is it to get the right kids?
Oh, it's immensely important. It's huge, because if those kids don't have that dynamic, if they are not the trio that we want to see fighting together and banding together, and we're rooting for them for the entirety of their duration at this school, then we're not going to tune in. It is like having a Spider-Man that you hate. You have to have a very likable person in this role so that you root for him, especially with the Parker luck, right? Harry Potter has terrible luck, needs really great friends, and he needs to have people that are going to help lift him up so he can become the person that he's meant to be, right? And take on this immense evil. You got to root for them, and you have to believe that these three are absolutely like ride or die for all of each other.
Yep, 100%. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, if you were the greatest filmmaker ever, like Spielberg, Cameron level, and could adapt any franchise, which one would you choose, and what kind of story would you tell?
Star Wars movie. I don't know what kind, just probably an adventure, because I want Star Wars to be a lot of different things. That's why I loved Andor. That's why I'm loving Skeleton Crew. But yeah, I think if I was handed to me on a platter, definitely a Star Wars film, because I'm a Star Wars guy, and probably more of a swashbuckling adventure kind of one. So that's the one I would do personally. All right, what's next?
Lord Helmet says 3 predictions for 2025. 1, Superman will make over 700 million at the box office.
Certainly hope so.
2, Wednesday season 2 will be the biggest streaming show of the year.
I don't think so.
I feel like it's dropped off.
Yeah.
3, Carla Sofia Gascon will get an Oscar nomination for her performance in Emilia Perez. Oh, nomination? Probably.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if she'd win, but
I mean, she's already getting some nominations from the other awards bodies that we've been kind of talking about there. So that's not a wild, that's not like a big out there
not a hot
prediction
take.
like your Superman prediction. It's a good one. I still think Superman makes under 700 million.
I think if it makes over 6, they're doing great.
I think 6 is its ceiling. Again, it's because everybody's given up on the DC stuff. It's going to take them time and quality movies to win the audience back. And that's why Superman making money isn't all that important to the position DC is in. What's important is that the movie is awesome and starts to change the perception of DC so that future movies can make more money. So regardless of how good it is, I think 600 is the ceiling, but I hope you're right. I hope 700. If it could do that, I mean, listen, if this movie makes 500 million, they are absolutely throwing wild parties across the globe. They're going to be popping bottles like crazy if they can get off to that kind of a start. So we'll see how it goes. All right, what's next?
We got Google, who says, so I assume you walked out of the theater, Kraven more. Your out of the theater vid was hilarious. I know there's no confirmation that the Sony spin-off universe is over, but God, I hope it is. I have lost all faith in modern Sony outside of the Spider-Verse.
It's 100% not.
Yeah.
Even with Kraven. If Kraven does as bad as it can possibly do, the Sony Spider-Verse movies since 2018 with Venom to now, including Madam Web, including Morbius, will still, like right now, they're almost at $1 billion in profit. But even after Kraven, they're going to be like $750 million profitable. Not to mention the money they get from the movies they do with Marvel, with the Spider-Man standalone films. They are not done. They are going to make more. They're wrapped up right now in Noir, Spider-Man Noir. Obviously, they've got a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff going on with Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, working on Spider-Man 4 with Marvel. They got a lot of that going on. So it's going to be a few years, but they will make more. That universe isn't over. They're going to keep going. And listen, I don't need them to give us the Godfather of comic book movies. Just get back to giving us like Venom. Like that level. I don't mean do a Venom 4. I mean, just give us that level of fun and whatever. If you can just get back to that, we'll be okay. Anyway. All right, what's next?
Late to the party says, saw your not so positive out of the theater reaction to Kraven the Hunter. The last time I saw you so shaken over a movie in a positive way was with Shang-Chi. Polar opposites. Condolences. I'm sorry for your loss.
I rewatched that video, but the out of the theater video, because somebody mentioned, I read a comment, somebody said, like, John's literally shaking. I'm like, I wasn't shaking. And I put on the video. I was like, I was literally shaking. I was so upset by how bad that movie was. And just how disappointed I was. Because, I mean, if I went into Kraven thinking it was going to be one of the worst things I've ever seen, I probably would have just come on and gone, well, there it is, guys. I mean, Kraven. But I was like, I had such hope for it too. That so disappointed me. All right, what's next?
Arun says, saw your out of the theater reaction for Kraven and understood that Kraven killed the bad guys and your optimism.
Yeah.
I saw Red One in Prime, and it is exactly what you would expect. I guess BetterHelp should start sponsoring your next week's shows. Funny thing, they are.
BetterHelp is one of our sponsors for next
So
week.
nice call.
So your timing is impeccable. All right, what's next?
LG says, hey, crew, did you ever watch The Third Day with Jude Law on HBO? Got lost in the shuffle because it came out during COVID, but really interesting concept with Wicker Man vibes and a great cast, including Patty Constantine and Naomi Harris. I never even heard of Third
I've
Day.
never even heard of
Yeah,
it.
me either.
It's very rare that there's an HBO show that came and went and we never heard of it. Like Netflix happens all the time.
Yeah.
But with HBO, that's it. No, I'm not familiar with it. All right. Anyway, what's next?
Jay Newby says, I've got it. The Sonic mid-credit scene. Shady Dude approaches Sonic. Hey, kid, like what you're doing and would like to recruit you. Hands him a card with the Cobra logo on it. Boom. Sonic, Cobra versus G.I. Joe, Transformers. Make it happen, Paramount.
That was one. Listen, I know.
And then the turtles show up in that post-credit scene.
I know the
Yeah.
audience got excited about it, but I remember watching Transformers: Rise of the Beasts, and that post-credit scene where the guy says, "Well, I'm with an organization. We want you to join us," and he hands him a GI Joe card. I'm like,
Organization.
Like that would have had a lot better impact as a post-credit scene had the movie been better. And by the way, I didn't hate Transformers: Rise of the Beasts,
No.
but it was like, really, this is where you're trying
But also at the stage that G.I. Joe is at, why do that
Which is
now?
nowhere.
Yeah, which is nowhere. I mean,
yeah.
okay.
All right, what's next?
Captain says, I was lukewarm on the first 2 episodes of Creature Commandos, but the third was amazing. Absolutely love G.I. Robot. Seems like every episode, present day story is kind of secondary to the backstory of the main characters.
I have not watched the third episode yet.
Yeah, me either.
Have you, Chris?
I haven't watched any of it.
Oh yeah, I saw the first 2 and I
Christine.
liked them.
No.
I liked the first 2 episodes of Creature Commandos. Didn't think they were awesome. I thought they were, but not good enough that I'm like, it wasn't good enough like Skeleton Crew, where I'm literally finish an episode, mark it on my watch, and the countdown starts to the next episode. Right now, I couldn't even tell you what days Creature Commando drops, to be honest with you. So again, and I liked the first 2 episodes, so I will watch the third. But the backstory, I'm assuming you mean the backstory of the bride, is what they're following, like, because that was interesting. So it's gonna be cool to see where that goes. All right, what's next?
Rest in Peace Arrowverse says, is it just me or is Matt Reeves becoming a big deal in DC Studios? I am. He is. He's an EP on Cape Crusader. He's co-producing the dynamic duo movie with Gunn. He's producing Clayface and he's directing the Batman 2. He also oversaw the Penguin. Is he going to be like head of Batman content?
I said too much yesterday, and I'm not going to say any more today.
Look at these people prodding.
I said too much yesterday, and I'm not going to say anything else about it
Well,
today.
Some people think that you said too little.
Well, maybe. But I'm just going to say, I think that's a very keen observation that you made, sir, and leave it at that. All right, what's next?
Ian McAllister says, it's not broken, just broken in. War Over Him was amazing. I'm so glad I have a great Middle-earth movie to watch that is a standalone and not part of a 12-hour epic trilogy. How dare you? They should all be like that. Can't wait for more standalones.
Well, Chris, I went to go see...
The
I was
greatest.
the sacrificial lamb that went to go see Kraven yesterday, and then I watched the Rams versus the 49ers last night. So I didn't get to see War Over Him. Probably going to go see it today, but Chris Carr did.
Yeah.
What do you think of it?
I really enjoyed it. It starts off fairly slow, and there's a few tie-ins that are supposed to kind of remind you about Mordor that I think we could have removed just because of what this story is. But the actual story we get into is great. The character designs are wonderful. The voice acting is excellent. There's a few issues with animation for me personally, just because we have that mix of the two-dimensional anime style with CGI backgrounds and textures and things that I don't think blend particularly well. But that's me being nitpicky about it. Overall, I think it's a really fun watch. I had a great time.
I'm looking forward to going to watch it. All right, because I didn't like the trailer all that much, but I'm like, from you and other people, I'm hearing it's actually really quite
It's
solid.
quite fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it. All right, what's next?
Ian follows up, says, however, one downside from the movie I will say is there are times when the animation, specifically when the characters are speaking, feels very cheap or wooden. I think the movie would have benefited from a Blue Eye Samurai style of anime, but I loved it.
I'm going to be honest with you. I find a lot of animation today to be very cheap. Like done in a very, to their most cost-effective way.
Yep, and
like,
it is.
I love Invincible.
Mm-hmm.
Invincible seems like it's very budget animation.
Oh, they even call it out in season 2 too, of like, that's why a lot of times you don't have you have something over somebody's face or these big establishing shots. This
How did
definitely
the
has
animation in this one feel, though?
It feels. Did you ever see Princess Mononoke?
Yes.
It feels like that.
That was my
Okay.
thing. It's like very Miyazaki.
Yeah, but it feels like, oh, we did this several decades ago, and it doesn't feel like it's updated. But there are some really beautiful moments. The way that Candle lights her face in a couple moments when she's riding off on this horse in her like full like battle look at the end. Oh, there's some really, really stunning things in there too.
I hear the sound design is really great
Really
too.
good, yeah.
Yeah.
There
It's
used
pretty
to be
epic.
an animated show when I was a kid, and I need those of you in the live chat, if you have seen this, I need you to speak out. There was an animated show when I was a kid called Rocket Robin Hood. That was Robin Hood set far in the future.
Huh.
And so he had like
Googled
are you looking up Rocket Robin
Yep.
Hood? Where they would like fly, he'd had Friar Tuck and Little John and all that kind of stuff. And they would like, and there was the moon of Sherwood, not the Sherwood Forest, and like whatever and all that kind of stuff. You had Prince John, all that kind of stuff. But the thing is, it was so low budget that they
I can hear this
literally
character's voice.
just recycle. Yeah, there's
Leverage, Robin Hood, leverage.
kind of how he spoke. That's kind of exactly how he spoke. By the way, that's the sheriff. That's not or one of the sheriff's guys
Yeah.
and his goons. That's not Rocket Robin Hood.
No.
But I mean, like every episode was literally just recycled animation frames that they've used over and over and over and over again.
Fire Tuck in the background.
Like it was like just the same, and like whenever Rocket Robin was flying from one place to another, it was just the same animation.
Oh yeah.
And whenever a fight would start out with like he's coming in the ships and shooting lasers, it's just the same animation recycle. It became it became a huge joke. But I'm starting to see them do that in modern animation, like just recycling. And but I don't know, maybe they've always done it.
Well, they've always done that. Disney's done that for ages. Anime constantly has like the magical girl transformation trope, right? Or the Voltron assembly trope of, hey, this buys us time and it's animation we did once. We also have always had Disney repurposing where they'll take the skeletal structure of something and basically draw over it.
Yeah.
So that's why you see a lot of the same movements and gestures throughout their animation. And it's something they still do.
Robin Hood Beyond.
If you can find Rocket Robin Hood, go watch it.
The intro, I have it on my computer right now, is hilarious. This is great.
I still remember the song too. With Rocket Robin Hood. Anyway, oh wow. Okay. Anyway, what's next?
Brendan says, hey, John and crew, happy holidays. Season 2, y'all. No question, but I thought you'd find this interesting. The Bruce Springsteen movie with Jeremy Allen White is filming in downtown Freehold, New Jersey today, a 2-minute walk from my home. The retro facades look cool. I love when the studios do like location and it's a period piece.
And they transform it.
Suddenly and sometimes I get tricked. Like I'll be driving down Victory Boulevard and I'll be like, Tower Records, that's back. And then I like, wait, that's probably for a shoot.
Yeah.
Or like in Burbank, there was like a throwback 80s Toys R Us that they converted. Like from an old like abandoned Kmart. I'm like, oh, it looks so cool.
Remember that
You should still go inside.
for
Well, even inside look cool.
what's the name of the Tarantino's Hollywood film that with Brad Pitt? What was the name? What was the name
Once
of that?
upon a time.
Once upon a time
in Hollywood.
They did a lot in.
They literally transformed half of LA
well, yeah, Toluca Lake.
to the age.
Well,
right?
what's cool is not only did he like convert like part of Toluca Lake, that strip of stores there, but it was supposed to be those stores. So what they did was they rebuilt the facades of how Toluca Lake looked exactly in that time.
Oh.
And I remember some of those stores in Toluca Lake there.
Aw.
All
It was
right.
crazy.
What's next?
His level of detail. Tender Whisper says, I'm so excited for the Clayface film that's been announced. I hope it's viscerally horrific like David Cronenberg's The Fly, which itself is a horror, sci-fi, tragic love story.
Did you hear about this yesterday?
No.
Mike Flanagan is doing a Clayface movie.
Oh, hell yeah. That's
he's-
going to be so scary.
He's already written the script. He said he wants it to be a horror thriller,
Tragedy.
tragic, a horror thriller
Ooh.
tragedy.
And it's filming early next year.
Yeah,
Damn. Okay.
yeah. I like how they're gonna do it. I have no idea, but I'm super stoked
gonna
for
be
that.
spooky.
That's
So-
gonna be great.
So apparently, sorry,
Matt
I hate to
Reeves is
change
producing.
subject. The Game Awards actually had an award for the best adaptation, as in like on TV.
And let me guess, it went to Fallout.
Yeah, I went to fall.
What else could it have possibly been?
Arcane, Knuckles, Like a Dragon, and Tomb Raider.
Yeah,
Well,
come
definitely
on.
wasn't going to be Knuckles.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't gonna be Knuckles. But yeah.
All right, what's next?
Amin says, anyone watch the Game Awards last night? Speaking of, the Game Awards last night, bunch of great reveals and announcements. Naughty Dog finally revealed their next game, a new IP sci-fi game. That's cool. Looks great. Surprised Astrobot won Game of the Year, but so happy for them. Have you played it? It's great. I've never even heard of
Wait,
Astrobot.
that the PlayStation game?
Yeah, that's the one with their little
Yeah.
character. It looked amazing.
That
actually.
one Game of the Year? I'll be honest with you. I was really bummed out because I went to the Game Awards last year and I was planning on going again this year. I didn't even know they happened yesterday.
Well, one good
So I was
thing
kind of bummed out.
One good thing for this company is that if like we haven't heard of it or you haven't heard of it, the sales will go up definitely.
Well, I remember that happened with It Takes Two. Remember when It Takes Two won Game of the Year a couple of years ago? And then also, like, that's how Ann and I found out about it. And then we got hooked on that game. So I'm going to have to go back now and
Yep.
watch all the trailers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Tender Whisper says, spoiler alert. Oh, yeah, that's fun. Spoiler alert. I've already seen the new film by Dennis Zen. He's literally walking around LA for 30 minutes kicking puppies in their faces. Do you remember that from the AMC
Yeah, I
days?
remember that. I remember. That's a good throwback. So for those of you who don't know, Dennis Zen, I'm going to the premiere of his new short film. I think the title is Best Bros Forever.
Yeah. Or For
And-
Life or Forever. I can't remember.
And by the way, one of the actresses in it is Sinead DeFries.
Yeah. She
Is-
plays the wife of one of the...
So gonna go see that tonight. Going to go join Dennis down in Hollywood to go see that. Very excited. Couldn't be prouder of the guy. Gonna go see that. It's gonna be great. All right, what's next?
All right. We got Train Spotting Music Fan is back. Says, I forgot to say my other half introduced you all to me. Didn't know you didn't have Boxing Day. In the U.S., Canada does. We will be getting married next year in your country. My parents passed away. I don't have any family, but we will be living in the UK still. Merry Christmas.
Like, you guys don't even know. Like, Boxing Day. I mean, they have Boxing Day in the States. But like when I was growing up, like Boxing Day, that's the day after Christmas, we didn't have Black Friday. We had Boxing Day, which made sense. Christmas is done. No one's going to be shopping anymore. So the biggest sales of the year were always the day after Christmas, Boxing Day. And I remember every year we'd go with my dad and we go get, like, you had to get in line at like 6 a.m. at these stores, stuff like that. And that's when all the best deals. Now Canada has kind of adopted Black Friday more. And I don't know if Boxing Day is as big of a deal in Canada as
Might
it is
be.
anymore, but I used to love Boxing
Might
Day
be
so
easier
much.
just for like cross like country marketing with Amazon and everything to just say Black Friday, Cyber Monday,
Sure.
you know?
All right, what's next?
Mega Red says, wow, John, my sister and I were going to see Kraven, but I canceled our tickets after your review. How was the Rhino actor? He was in Jurassic Park 3, the very first movie I saw in theaters at age 4.
Horrible. But I want to cut him some slack because he was given garbage to work with.
Yeah, it wasn't necessary.
Like, again, I mentioned Ariana DeBose is terrible in this, but she's an Academy Award winning actress. I mean, what are you supposed to do with it? I mean, so I don't really blame the performers. The performances were terrible, but I don't know what they were supposed to do. That's the thing. All right, what's next?
Okay, Mega Red says, "Are there any legacy Marvel characters from the years of film canon you would love to see in Secret Wars? Personally, I'd love to see Nick Cage as Ghost Rider again. As cheesy as that movie was, I always loved the Ghost Rider design."
No, I'm over. I mean, listen, I'm over Nick Cage as Ghost Rider. The design, I mean, you can still bring back the design. Nothing wrong with that, but I don't think you're going to see Nick Cage. I mean, that's a little too novelty
Yeah.
for that. So honestly, no, I have no desire to see any of the characters from the non-canon stuff to be in there at all, to be honest with you. I think it would just cheapen the whole thing, to be honest. So no. All right, what's next?
Okay, Rob Buck is here with a two-parter. My quest to finally watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy has completed the first step. My D&D loving self loved Fellowship. All the characters that I've heard about through osmosis were better than I thought they were going to be. The scene of Aragorn,
And Frodo.
and Frodo made me actually tear up. Watching this man who refused the throne be so strong enough to be tempted by the ring and still places loyalty to the Fellowship above all. Also, Gimli and Galadriel is the cutest scene. They have my axe.
Yep.
On to the next, man. You're gonna enjoy it.
You're gonna have so much fun.
Yeah, again,
These are Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, they wrote in the other day to say they had never seen it. And I
Yeah.
said, I'm actually jealous because you get to watch it for the first
Mm-hmm.
time.
Yeah, these are moments like, not necessarily like, I don't know Rob, but I don't want to be creepy, but these
I
are those
do know
moments
Rob.
where like, I wish I could be there to watch them experience it.
Oh yeah.
You know?
Well, Rob's a student of mine actually.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
So then I'm
okay,
coming
that's
over,
right,
Rob.
they mentioned
Yeah,
that.
he found me through the show and everything, and as part of our Dungeons and Dialects class all
Nice.
the time. So we gamified doing dialects, so you get out of your own way. And he's a brilliant D&D player, and it just blew my mind that he hadn't seen these movies because he's so entrenched in this kind of world. Oh, they're the best movies in the world. I love them so much.
All right, what's next?
Dildar, the glorious.
Glorious.
Anyone watch the Game Awards? Astrobot wins Game of the Year, and they showed the first trailer for Witcher 4, but basement dwellers are calling it woke trash because Ciri is the main character now, even though that was the whole point of the last game.
Oh, I didn't see it. Again, like I haven't seen the Game Awards yet, so hopefully sometime today. I want to try to squeeze in a screening of War of the Rohirrim. I want to see if I can sit down and watch the Game Awards, and I got to get out to see a screening of Dennis's movie tonight out in Hollywood. So I'm going to try to squeeze all that in today if I can. All right, what's
Friendly
next?
reminder to everyone who is talking about watching the Game Awards. A lot of those actors who you love in these video games have been on strike from video game work since July 26th. A lot of people keep forgetting that this strike is still ongoing, since a couple of the studios have figured out how to actually work with them and do interim contracts and everything. So
Oh, that's cool.
Oh, that's probably why I haven't even thought about it, because I remember reading about, certain deals were made, so I kind of put it out of my mind.
Exactly. So
but the strike
just-
is still technically
still
on.
technically on because a lot of the bigger studios still will not budge on issues about AI and stuff. So just something
Okay.
to look up. Go read some articles, you guys. They're still on strike. Go support your favorite actors and creators, okay?
All right, what's next?
Joel says, John, not fair. Why did you spoil Game of Thrones on open mic? Just kidding. LOL, breathe, just joking. I'm on season 3, and wow, this show is the best. My man Ned got done dirty. Waiting for Joffrey to get ripped apart like Tywin every time that dude is on screen is imposing.
Yeah, by the way, the guy who plays Tywin Lannister is also in a show I'm just waiting to finish right now, Day of the Jackal, the new one
Oh, nice.
on Peacock, I think Day of the Jackal's on.
Yeah.
I am obsessed with that show. I started watching it and I got caught up immediately. I love it. Yeah, I remember when I watched season 1 of I didn't watch season 1 of Game of Thrones until the day the season 1 finale was coming out. Dennis, we were just talking about him, had this marathon day at his house where they were going to watch all the episodes of season 1, climaxing with the broadcast of the finale.
Right.
And that was my first experience watching Game of Thrones. And when they kill Ned at the end, I'm like, well, I'm not going to watch season 2.
Yeah, they killed the main character.
But
That's
it
what
just
my
kept
friend
getting
said.
better and better after that. So yeah, and the rest is history.
Yeah, and the budget kept going up.
Oh yeah. All right, what's next?
Joel says, remind us once again how much you love Disneyland, John. We all know it's your favorite place. Remind us how good they treat your money. Wonderful experience every time. Let's hear it. Praise Disney. Have a great weekend. Going to watch Kraven anyway. You should watch Kraven at like Downtown Disney.
Yeah, go watch it at Downtown Disney. Yes, for
Always
those of you who
with the
don't
good
know, that
ideas.
was a facetious message that somebody sent in. I do not like Disneyland. I think they are financial rapists, and yeah, they are a horrible, horrible, horrible place. That's just me. All right, what's next?
We got Mr. Snivy. Saw the re-release of Daft Punk's Interstellar 5555. I saw that too to downtown LA. It was great. Had a fun time, but thing that surprised me was that nobody in the packed theater was singing along to the songs. Well, there's not really many lyrics. Glad they were respectful about that. Wish the same thing would be said for the Wicked screening. I mean, how do you sing along to a lot of Daft Punk songs that you just kind of like move to the music?
I don't even know what this Daft Punk thing is.
Oh, Interstellar. It was like a anime movie that came out like 10 or 15 years ago.
Oh, I'm not even aware of it.
Yeah. When the album Discovery, which was their album after Homework came out, they created like a movie that coincided with all the songs in order of the album.
Oh,
It was a concept album.
very cool.
All right, what's next?
Mike Halsey says, I've only seen your out of the theater review, not the full review today, but do you blame the failure of the Kraven on the director, the lead actor, the writers, or the studio? As I'd like to see Aaron Taylor Johnson as Bond. Wasn't his fault.
Look, at the end of whenever something succeeds, there's a lot of credit to go around. And whenever something fails, there's a lot of blame to go around. There's never one point of failure. All right? Let's just be clear. There's never one point of failure. But as much as I like J.C. Chandor, and I do, the lion's share, at the end of the day, it is the director's responsibility to make the movie as good as it can be. Now, you can say there are a lot of other factors too, and you'd be right. There are other factors. But at the end of the day, it's the director's responsibility to take that mess and make it into something as good as it can be. And so while it is not only the director's fault, there again, everybody always wants to point to one thing. There is never one point of failure. But again, the lion's share of the blame has to go on the director, because if the movie worked, the lion's share of the credit goes to the director. So, yeah, not all his fault. I'm sure there was a lot of things working against him. I'm sure there was a lot of obstacles and hurdles and all that kind of stuff that maybe even other directors may not have been able to do much better. It still ultimately is the director's responsibility to deliver the best movie possible. So that's where I go with it. All right, what's next?
Sam Vischer says, John, you were so mad in your out of theater review for the movie. I thought it was a bit.
Oh, it wasn't a bit. I guarantee you it was not a bit. Listen, like or dislike my opinions on things, I don't give a shit. You will always know that when I give you my opinion, popular or unpopular, it's what I actually think. And it's what I actually feel. I will always be 100% honest about how I feel. If I like something you didn't like, I'm just being honest. I liked it. If I dislike something, I'm just being honest. I disliked it. And if I, which I didn't realize I did, if I physically shake, I'm actually physically shaking from that. So again, you may like or not like my opinion on something, but the one thing you got to know is that it's what I actually legitimately think. All right, what's next?
Callow says, looking at my YouTube music recap, it showed the John Campea Show and Open Mic, my top 5 podcasts.
Nice.
Seeing that inspired me to say thanks for the many hours of content this year and years past. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year to you and the rest of the crew. Well, thanks for watching us.
Well, thanks for that. And before I get some data, just somebody in the live chat is saying I'm wearing a Dallas Cowboys thing. What the fuck? You shut your
They
whore
are
mouth.
correct.
I don't know if you can see it better.
God's team. Don't defile God's team. The Toronto Maple Leafs. All hail thy name.
I like the
With
Toronto
the
Blue Jays.
Dallas Cowboys. Anyway, getting on to the Spotify thing, we got some really interesting data from Spotify. Which, by the way, you can listen to us on Spotify. You can even watch the show on Spotify. We're Spotify. As a matter of fact, I put this out on social media the other day. Spotify let us know that the John Campea Show is in the top 1% of all video shows on Spotify. The top 1%. That on Spotify, over 5,000 Spotify users listed the John Campea Show as their number 1 listen show of the year. And we were in the top 5 listen podcast of over 20,000
Picture how much
Spotify users. So thank you to everybody who watches and listens to us on Spotify. That was amazing to hear.
I was just gonna say, picture how much higher you would be without me on the show.
Oh no, I think half of them listed Ray Aura.
Yeah,
Ray Aura's the
right.
reason we're here.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Andy Newton says, buy one, rent one, throw one away. Morbius, Madam Web, Craven. Just kidding. Throw them all away.
Yeah. Okay. But honestly, I'll play it through.
All right.
Buy one. Morbius.
Ooh.
Terrible movie, but it had its moments. Terrible, terrible movie, but it had its moments. Rent one. Madam Web.
Oh.
In the so bad, you kind of got to watch it level, right? Like, I made my family watch it. It's like, you just got to see it. Throw away Kraven.
Wow.
That'll just make you angry and hate life.
That's crazy. I didn't know it was that.
But I got to give one to each. Like, I'm not going
I know, but I was thinking, oh, wow. That's okay.
Yeah. So
Okay.
that's how I would rank it. Anyway. All right. What's next?
We got Anonymous' fun fact, $472 million. Venom 3 has made more money than the last 8 DCU films. It's hilarious to think that Venom trilogy was more successful than half of the DCEU films. But
Yeah,
it didn't make more money
than
than...
when you add it up. The Venom films alone, I believe, have made $1.8 billion. Just the Venom films alone. They did pretty well, man. I'm surprised. I did not think Venom 3 would make as much as it has. Again, it's the one Venom film that I haven't liked. I didn't hate it, but I didn't like Venom 3. It's the only one I didn't like. And even it, I mean, I thought it wouldn't get to like 375. Then it crossed 400 million. Then it crossed 450. It's closing in on 500. It's not going to get to 500, but good for them, man. It's profitable. The movie was profitable. Good for them. All right, what's next?
I gotta scroll up here. One of two, Mr. I. John, I have to slightly disagree with you. I believe the iteration of the live action Sony universe is dead with the failure of Kraven. They tried to force Null in as a Thanos level threat with no buildup. I think they should work out a deal with Feige and maybe not roll in the Rogues Gallery, but at least have MCU creative involved and build a stronger narrative going forward. They will need to either reboot the universe or keep each a separate narrative.
You can disagree all you want, but it's a fact. It's not dead. I'm sorry, that's just a fact. And they don't need to reboot anything because they don't actually have a cinematic universe.
Yeah, nothing's tied together, really.
Like, we never saw Madam Web pop up in Morbius, or Morbius comes into Kraven. Spoiler alert, Morbius doesn't show up in Kraven. So they don't really need to reboot anything. And if you want to go back and take another shot at Madam Web, you can, but it was just a standalone film, so that's okay too. They've never really had a cohesive spunk, right? It was never really a cohesive thing. So they're not done. They're profitable. They're making money. They get to keep the rights. And Marvel has no incentive to go in and help them make money. Marvel wants them to fail. Marvel wants them to fail so bad, and who can blame them? They want them to fail so bad that they have no choice but to go, we're losing all this money, and well, here you go. And that they can't possibly keep up with making the films, so the rights go back to Marvel. That's what Marvel wants. Marvel's not going to help them keep the rights. And again, I'm sure Sony would sell the rights to Spider-Man back to Marvel, but it would be at a price that Marvel's just not willing to pay. And why should Sony sell the rights back? They're making money. So you can disagree, that's fine, but it is a fact that it's not done. They're going to keep making these movies. And so it just is what it is. It may take a couple of years now because they've already got 3 other things in the project line. Again, Beyond the Spider-Verse, Spider-Man Noir, and Spider-Man 4. These are all already in the works. So they've got a number of years. They've got years before they have to be in production of another one. So it's going to take time, but they're not done. They're not done. All right, what's next?
We got, I love buying books, but like Chris, I don't have a lot of room. I use a Kindle to buy books, also hire them from my local library. Regarding physical media, libraries can rent books digitally.
Yeah.
Do the same for movies. TV libraries are dying. May help them. Yeah, but the
but
point
libraries
is,
don't have the money to do that.
Yeah.
Right? Anytime you rent a movie, there are going to be actors and producers and writers that are going to want some kind of residual. Like, a residual isn't the right word to use anymore, but it's the money has to be paid, and libraries can't do that. So what you'll have to do then is, and this is what happens now, stock libraries with public domain stuff. But otherwise, I mean, listen, that's the thing everybody always misses. Whenever somebody watches something, somebody else wants money to change hands. That's business. That's totally fine. That's business, but it means they're going to be things that can't actually happen, and that's probably one of them. I love the idea, but it probably can't happen. All right, what's next?
Anonymous says, "Hey, Campea and crew, have y'all heard of the HBO TV movie The Cherokee Kid, starring Sinbad the comedian? Well, it's not on Max or streaming. I had to get the DVD off eBay. It's getting hard to find old movies. Things like that, those niche films are going to be very difficult."
That sounds like one that maybe should be forgotten. I've never heard of it personally, but the elevator pitch didn't motivate me to go, Ray, look up where we can download this.
Cold-hearted.
Ooh.
Cold-hearted.
How old is that?
It's
It's got to be forever. Yeah, so
It's
anyway.
from 1996.
1996. I don't even remember it.
Me
at the
either.
time. All right, what's next?
Let's see. We got Mr. I, who says, "I don't think the Spider-Man video game rights is necessarily a Sony exclusive. It's similar to the TV animated rights. The current games are licensed to Insomniac Games, which is owned by Sony. Activision had rights before, and the games were on Xbox and Nintendo as well as Sony during the Tobey and Andrew Spider-Man days. But right now, this license is purely for
Right. So, and this is what I kind of suspected, but I honestly just didn't know. It sounds like the movie rights of Spider-Man are a completely separate thing to the video game rights of Sony and PlayStation have. Those are two separate deals that are probably negotiated independently of each other. So that makes sense. That makes sense to me. All right. Thanks for sharing that, man. I appreciate that. What's next?
Mr. I says, "One last, I swear, have you guys seen the Sonic 3 Xmas Parade posters? They're really good. My favorite one is Robotnik in place of Chevy Chase." Oh, okay, I see. Oh, in the National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation poster. So they have like different, they take over other Christmas
Traditional
movies.
Christmas
yeah.
movies?
All these are
okay, I
so
see it.
cute.
That's a cute,
They
cool
did one
idea.
with Elf.
I've never, no, I didn't see any of that, but that does sound like a cute idea.
They're really precious.
Oh, they have Die Hard.
You know what? They're doing a good job marketing this movie.
Oh yeah,
I'm
Paramount's
seeing the
great.
trailers every time I've gone to the movie theater. I've seen the trailers lately. They're doing some cute little things online. They're doing a good job marketing.
Oh, this one's
thing.
cool. It's let me back out of that.
Nightmare
It's
Before Christmas.
Oh,
Yeah.
instead of Bill Murray.
yeah.
That's pretty cool.
See, I like when
that.
when these companies do this stuff.
Yeah, that's cool. I like that.
All
right, what's next?
We got Ernest says, "Hey John, it seems when a movie's profitability is calculated, streaming DVD rentals and sales are not included. How do movie studios determine profitability of non-theatrical releases straight to DVD and streaming?"
You know, Matt Damon did an interview, I believe, on Hot Ones last year or a number of months ago, where he kind of put it the way I've been trying to say it for a long time, is that there's not real money to be made there anymore. Like a lot of people think, oh, but that doesn't count the Blu-ray sales. Like Matt Damon pointed out, it's like, yeah, there was a time when that made up a significant chunk of change, but there's not actually much money changing hands. Like right now, there's no money being made whether something gets streamed 1,000 times or 100,000 times. The streamers are trying to change that. They're trying to introduce ad-supported tiers, so the more something gets watched, more ads play, and maybe that generates more money. But the reality is on most streaming things, like let's say I load up a movie on Max. I have ad-free, as most people who have Max do. And I load it up and I watch it. That doesn't make them any money, me watching it. It makes no difference to them whether it's watched 10 times or 10 million times. It doesn't matter. So the aftermarket money being made on individual stream incidents is actually, it's marginal. It's marginal. And so it's not really a part of the calculations anymore. There was a time when it was, but it's not really that much anymore. Again, I go back and watch how Matt Damon kind of explains it. He's putting it better than I am, but it's just part of the reality now. All right, what's next?
Stubbles McShave says, "It seems every time a movie releases the first 10 minutes, it's a sign that the rest is shit."
Actually, that's not true.
That's not true.
That's not true. But
Yeah.
anyway, in this case, it did.
Yeah. Can you think of a movie where they released the start of the movie and the movie turned out great? To me, it's a bad sign when they release the beginning of a film. Avatar 2.
Avatar 2. Also, I remember, I think it was a Star Trek movie, and they showed the first number of minutes of the new Hobbit film. And by the way, I thought the first Hobbit was good. Again, it's nowhere near as good as the Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy, but I thought the first Hobbit film was good. I actually thought the first two Hobbit films were good. Again, neither as good as the trilogy, but they were good. And I remember they did that and that worked out well. So anyway, there's that.
I think they did it for Pacific Rim as well.
Did they do it for Pacific
yeah,
Rim?
I
I don't
just-
remember
Sounds
that.
familiar, but yeah.
All right, what's next?
Look, Heel for Neil says Dave Filoni said that Skeleton Crew premiere last week that Mandalorian and Grogu wrapped up filming and that he's moving on to Ahsoka season 2 next. He's the sole writer on it. Script's almost done, and he can't wait to meet the crew again. He loves that Ahsoka.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody the other day who's a big Dave Filoni fan. If I said the name, you would know who I was talking about. Who is a big Dave Filoni fan. And, you know, we were just kind of talking about, you know, does Ahsoka 2 actually happen, all that kind of stuff. And he said, you know, I think we're just at the point now we just got to admit that when it comes to doing stuff for live action, Dave Filoni can't write for shit. I'm sorry, Ahsoka wasn't good. Ahsoka wasn't good. It wasn't terrible. There were definitely episodes, and I think you could see promise in there. And I still believe to this day, because of the attitude that he has, I think Dave Filoni is going to be a great director, like a great live action director someday. I really do. I'll bank on that. But his writing for live action right now, this is a great example of just because you can write well for animation doesn't mean you can write well for live action. And his writing right now, I think, is questionable. But again, it's all process, man. You'll learn. And when you're somebody like Dave Filoni who has the type of attitude that he has, which is a very learning attitude, the ceiling for how high you can go is almost limitless. And I still think years from now, we're going to see some great live action Dave Filoni directed stuff. I don't think he's there yet. And I think his obsession with this one character is holding him back. He's so completely obsessed with the Ahsoka character that to hell with anything, I'm just going to keep doing Ahsoka stuff. I personally think it's holding him back. I think he can be great. I think he will be great. But I think doing Ahsoka season 2, look, again, the numbers are the numbers. The viewership on Ahsoka kept dropping week after week. Them doing like, hey, Lucasfilm, why don't you focus a little, hey, Dave Filoni, why don't you focus a little bit more on your attention getting some fucking goddamn live action movies on the screen? Why don't you focus on that instead of trying to make a sequel to a failed show? That's just me. It's frustrating because you see how good he can be. But anyway, that's where I am right now. All right, what's next?
Calvin says, highly recommend the spy thriller Date of the Jackal. Eddie Redmayne and the cast are fantastic. Got to be next on your list to watch.
I started watching that last week and I got all the way caught up. And I went to watch the final episode. Oh, the final episode isn't out yet. So I'm kind of waiting to watch the final episode. I am loving this show. This show is great. Eddie Redmayne is fantastic in it. Lashana Lynch is wonderful in it. It's a really good show. If you guys haven't, I know a lot of you guys don't have Peacock. That's fine. But if you do, go check it out because it's really worth it. All right, we're really overtime. How many more do we got?
This is the last one.
Last one. All right, what's next?
Regarding Superman's box office predictions, just as for comparison, Batman Begins made 375, then 404, then 836. Worldwide, after Batman and Robin was well received by critics and the audience. Sequel made $1 billion. Just Be Good. Was also Nolan too.
Yeah, I think it was Christopher Nolan, and it was a very long break. I mean, this is a cinematic universe,
Right.
that everybody's given up on. It's going to take time. I think the movie's going to be good. At least I hope it is. But even if it's good, don't be unrealistic with what the box office results are going to be, because a lot of people are just, it's kind of like the Kraven thing, right? It didn't matter how good Kraven was, and it's shit, but even if it was good, it wasn't going to make a ton of money because of people associated with Morbius and Madam Web. People had given up on it. And I think there's just too many people who've given up on the DC stuff. Again, Batman was a standalone thing, and audiences aren't confused by that. They understand that with Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson and how it looked and all that kind of stuff. And they understand it was a standalone thing. Same thing with Joker. But this is different. And I think it's going to be a little bit of a struggle for them. I really do. Hopefully, it leads to better things, but I think it's going to be an uphill battle. We'll see though. All right, guys. And that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show a part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in questions. Number one, because it gives great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it, and all of us involved with the show. Thank you guys so very much for your support. I want to thank the people in the room with me, Ray Ora,
Have a good weekend, everyone.
Jonathan Voico,
See you guys later.
Chris Carr.
Bye.
My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, Kraven.